Hello and welcome. It is Saturday, the 17th day of February 2018. Couple free NHL selections for today. Big heavyweight battle between the Pittsburgh Penguins and the Toronto Maple Leafs. And I have placed a little wager on the Toronto Maple Leafs as a small road underdog to beat the Pittsburgh Penguins. This is a Toronto team that has won 35 games this year, losing 24 or 11 games above 500. And they've won 9 of the last 10 while outscoring their opponents 42-22. Pittsburgh, with a record of 33-26, has done almost as good as Toronto this year, and their recent streak is almost as good as well, with 8 wins and 10 losses, and outperforming their foes by a margin of 43-25. Toronto is 13-3 this season, with at least 2 days rest, and 22-21 otherwise. They will be coming into this game with 2 days rest, where Pittsburgh, whom is 15-7 with the rest, and 18-19 when they don't have it. This tells me that, especially with Toronto, but for both teams, the coaches do take advantage of the extra time to game plan, prepare whatever it is that they're doing, whether they're watching the film with the extra time they have, whether it's whatever they're doing in sports science, whatever it is with this extra allocated time they have is working. So I'm going to back the Maple Leafs because of this. And Mike Babcock, quite frankly, is about as smart in coaching the NHL as I am in trading cryptocurrencies, I think. And well, that says a lot for one of us. But continuing on further, again, Toronto's playing very, very well, and I think they have a little bit of an advantage in the situation. They've won the last 3 straight against the Pittsburgh Penguins, as well as 4 of the last 5. When I look at how things have done over the last little while, I only care about how recent the data it becomes for a team. So a team like Pittsburgh, the last 4, 5, 6 years, for the most part, are somewhat accurate, but for Toronto, they had a major makeover on their team last year, so I only care about data from last year. So that means the Austin Matthews era is 3-1 against Sidney Crosby. Mitchell Marner, another one of the rookies last year, a guy known for great passing, but not so much scoring, and he's one of his downfalls, especially from Coach Mike Babcock, is he just isn't shooting the puck. And he has gotten 8 goals and 6 assists over the last 12 matchups, but even more impressive, 3 goals and 5 assists in the last 3. And this is after he started the first 47 games with only 5 goals and 26 assists. So he's on fire. He's playing much, much better. And this is only going to help the team with his confidence level. And in their last outing that they played, they scored 6 goals, while the top line, the Austin Matthews, William Nylander line, was shut out of play. So this is a team that when one of the top guns don't get the job done on a statistical night, that the other guys are doing so. And now for the second consecutive season, the Toronto Maple Leafs, not as well this year, have done very well within the injury situation. They lost Austin Matthews for a few games back in December, and that did cost them amongst the standings. Pittsburgh has went through a lot of injury situations as well. And right now you got former Leaf on the team, Phil Kessel. He is playing really good hockey as well. So you do have, and of course, Sidney Crosby playing well also. Another pick that I like that I have, I'm not going to just put any details on it, but the Los Angeles Kings are 2-1 odds to win by 2 goals or more against the Buffalo Sabres, or laying a goal and a half. And you know what? I just can't pass on that selection. As far as another team to win by 2 goals or more, you're not going to get that great of a price, and even maybe an over on this game as well, is the Montreal Canadiens and the Vegas Golden Knights. To take the Vegas Golden Knights to win by 2 goals or more. Again, an over situation because Montreal's getting a few goals here and there, but Vegas can score like really well. Also, I'm going to be looking at the Washington Capitals tonight, playing against the Chicago Blackhawks. Chicago has lost like 7 games in a row. Washington has also dominated the history in the series. I'm not too big on interconference dominations, but the price matchup has it practically at a pick'em for both teams, and Chicago's just terrible, and Washington's actually leading their division. So Washington is something else I am looking at as well. Also, we have the Boston Bruins playing against the Vancouver Canucks. Boston is on very good rest. I talked about Toronto with the 2+ days or more. Boston 16-4 in that spot. And I just want to talk a little further because I forgot about this point. So we have Boston, who's had 20 games with at least 2 days rest. Pittsburgh, who's had 22, and the Leafs have had 16. So they haven't had as many amazing good rest spots as the other teams have, which makes their record even better than 2 games for Toronto versus Pittsburgh. But yes, expect Boston to come out with a spectacular win tonight. Maybe consider laying a 1.5 on the Boston Bruins tonight as well. And furthermore, Brandon Shively has apparently stated he likes to play on Pittsburgh as his free play for tonight. Pittsburgh Penguins have been rounding into form. Oh, yeah. Toronto Maple Leafs have yet to prove they can beat the top teams in the league on the road. You know, I've been watching a bit of the Toronto Maple Leafs. Actually, they have proven that. They have done so. Let's just take a look at some of the games in a little bit. But Pittsburgh is undervalued at this price. I have to think the otherwise. Toronto is undervalued. And I'm actually thinking about making a larger wager because I've noticed that the price has just increased another, 10 higher points. It's at plus 125 now. Or 225. Yeah, 125 now. So they want to lay it with the defending champions to take on Pittsburgh. So in a site like this, you can it's not minus 140 for Pittsburgh, which like about plus 125 for Toronto. This is a team, and the history for the last 15, 20 years with this team, I mean, like I stated before, I can only go back to this season and last season for the most part, is when they're supposed to win, you bet against them. When they're supposed to lose, you bet for them. So they did go into New York and they won 4-0. And they did that on a back-to-back as well. Dallas is a pretty decent team, especially at home. They defeated them 4-1. They were plus 161 on that game. The biggest underdogs they've been all season long. Against the Chicago Blackhawks, well, that's the Chicago Blackhawks. And the Ottawa Senators, same thing. They lost to Vegas 6-3, joined the party. Another road game against the Rangers with a win. They lose to Minnesota and Philadelphia. Now, this is when Austin Matthews was out. That doesn't count. They went to Pittsburgh. And they won 4-3 on December the 9th. They had 2 days rest, though. So, I mean, that kind of wasn't unfair because that gave more rest or preparation for Mike Babcock to get the team in full flight. So I guess that doesn't count. But no, it does. And they beat Edmonton and Calgary. Okay, whatever. Carolina, they're not a good team. Montreal, they had a huge bad streak against the Montreal Canadiens, and they've been breaking it, and they've been beating them well. And they also beat Boston on the road. And you want to talk about a team in full flight playing darn near amazing hockey right now. That's the Boston Bruins. In fact, right now, the top teams in the league pretty much, at least in the East, are the 3 in that division. Boston, Toronto, and the Tampa Bay Lightning. And then you got teams like the Vegas Golden Knights and the Nashville Predators on the other side. But yeah, they won that game. They lost in St. Louis. They beat Anaheim on the road. And that's another win against Montreal. They beat Washington too as well. I mean, this is a team that has only been one of the top teams the last few years, leads their division right now. This is a team that Toronto played in the first round of the playoffs last year. And I watched the entire series. It was a good hockey. And the Leafs played just as good as Washington did. There was so many overtime games. It was just formality that Washington had more wins when it was all said and done. And Toronto's a much better, more experienced team. And they opened up this season by beating, and this is the other team I was trying to think. Who's that other good Western Conference team when I named Nashville and Vegas? Winnipeg was one of those other teams. They opened the season with a 7-2 victory against them, with lots of prep time for that one. this team is the one that's majorly undervalued in this situation. So I was thinking when I'm looking at my analysis, this is like an advanced pick. And then, of course, Brandon Shively, who I think is more of a football or basketball guy. And I'm more of an NHL handicapper. Although recently my results have been better in NBA, on my picks that is, but long term I'm much better NHL handicapper. Thank you for tuning in and have yourself a great day. Bye-bye.